along those notes now by actually investigating the nature challenge or the nature side of this equation. So thank you so much, Chad, for joining us here today. I already took a peek at your presentation. It's really wonderful. So please take the stage. I'll do your timekeeping up front, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me to this exciting workshop. What an incredible group of people that you guys have brought together. I'm honored to get the invite, let alone say a few words, so really appreciate this. Noelle asked me to provide a few words on setting the context around Earth's largest nature challenges. But I have to admit, I am a material science engineer, not a trained ecologist or conservationist. However, I have been working for the last 7 years with an organization, Conservation X Labs, that's doing exactly what Noelle had asked me. Identifying the largest, most intractable, wicked problems that the world's facing and really running towards those to find solutions. So today I'm going to present a framework that we've been sort of using to discuss drivers of biodiversity loss and ecosystem degradation. My goal isn't to preach to the choir here, and I think expect this type of framing is something that everyone's pretty comfortable with or familiar with. But hopefully I can help establish sort of this baseline understanding and this framework that could be helpful for today's and tomorrow's discussions. Just briefly, for those who don't know, Conservation X Labs, so we're a technology and innovation company working on to solve the issues around the sixth mass extinction, an event that we're currently experiencing. I don't really have enough more to say about, or I don't have enough time to talk more about CXL, but hopefully we can talk a little bit further during the next couple of days. In any case, my bosses and co-founders of CXL, Paul Bungie and Alex Dagan, who I think many of you know, they started CXL because they thought society needed a company that could both understand the urgency of these twin climate and biodiversity crises and also start to provide solutions to these issues. So one of the things that we really understand is that the problems are getting exponentially worse, but the solutions aren't. They're only incremental. So we need to match the speed and scale with solutions. Now, in conservation, the main tool that ecologists use is the designation of protected areas. And here is a graph showing the number of protected areas over time. We've been exponentially successful at protecting national parks and building national parks. Fantastic. And studies have even shown that conservation action has prevented a handful of extinctions. So problems have been solved, right? No problem. Unfortunately, we all know the punchline here is that we've not been successful at all. These graphs show that every group of vertebrates is in a state of decline despite our incredible job protecting areas. While conservationists can describe the problems we're facing today, they don't have the skill set to really solve them. Again, and because it's worth repeating, the problems of extinction and habitat destruction are increasing exponentially, while our solutions have just been incremental. And we need to have the solutions to match the speed and scale of the problems we're facing. I'll say protecting nature is vital, but park barriers only address the periphery of much larger drivers, such as the demand for cheap protein, just to name one. So we need to address these key economic opportunities that can release the pressure on the system. We've gotten ourselves into this mess, but we have the power to get ourselves out if we can adopt a portfolio of solutions at a speed and a scale that will match the problems. So now I'm going to spend the next few minutes just briefly mentioning these sort of 5 global drivers of biodiversity loss and ecosystem change. Land and sea use change, already mentioned, overexploitation of natural resources, pollution, invasive species and disease, and climate change and how that impacts biodiversity. So, this sort of framing should look familiar to those of you that I know participated in a recent meeting that we organized, convened around an effort we're calling the Extinction Solutions Index, which is an effort to help identify and rank solution space to solve these drivers. And I can talk more about that offline. First of all, land and sea use change is the major human influence on habitats and includes conversion of land cover from activities like deforestation, mining, changes in the management of the ecosystem or agroecosystem through intensification of ag management, forest harvesting, for example, or changes in the spatial configuration of the landscape, so fragmentation of habitats through development. The anthropogenic exploitation of wildlife has occurred throughout human history, leading to biodiversity loss and extinctions. However, the recent rate of loss has accelerated sharply. The most overexploited species include marine fish, invertebrates, trees, tropical vertebrates hunted for bushmeat, and species harvested for medicinal and pet trade. Pollution. Pollution is an important driver of biodiversity and ecosystem change throughout all biomes, with particularly devastating effects on freshwater and marine habitats. At a global level, the atmospheric deposition of nitrogen has been recognized as one of the most important threats to the integrity of global biodiversity. And while terrestrial ecosystems have been affected by nitrogen phosphorus fertilizers, these have had a far worse effect on the biodiversity of freshwater and marine habitats, leading to dead zones that support no aquatic life, just to name a few. Invasive species, which is one that I think is often misunderstood or at least de-emphasized, this could refer to indigenous and or alien species. They mostly occur in terrestrial and freshwater, aquatic, marine, and freshwater aquatic ecosystems, disrupting the functioning ecological the natural systems. They outcompete local and indigenous species for natural resources with negative implications on biodiversity. In fact, invasive species are the largest contributor to biodiversity loss, which is particularly amplified in island settings, where an invasive predator can wipe out an indigenous species quickly if there's no human interventions. And finally, climate change. These drivers are related to changes in climate and weather patterns, impacting in situ ecosystems functioning and causing migration of species and full ecosystems. There are indications that climate change-induced temperature increases may threaten as many as 1 in 6 species at the global level. Finally, rising CO2 concentrations leads to higher ocean temperatures, and ocean acidification are expected to have profound effects on marine ecosystems, particularly coral reefs and marine communities near the seafloor. So with that, I'm going to just put this slide up that kind of lists a lot of these challenges that I discussed under each of the 5 headings. Hopefully this is a nice little primer for everyone and provides a nice framework of understanding for their discussions over the next couple of days. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. We have challenges now, but we have challenges under different headers of challenges. Okay, we're getting into the weeds. I love it. Question, comment? Anyone? Lots of people were taking photos of the slides. One thing that we're hoping to do, if all speakers are okay with that, is actually share the slides with participants, because especially in the deep dives that we're going to have, it's very useful to have the slides as well. Okay, no further questions. Wow. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. This was a really great overview.